mean, Project Exile was formed as a partnership with the U.S. Attorney's Office and state law enforcement in February of 2006. Now, there is a form of Project Exile in every district in the country. Every United States District Court in the country has a form of Project Exile. And there are cross-designated prosecutors in almost every district prosecuting those cases. So to suggest that Project Exile was somehow a creation of the state's attorney's office is just not true. It's just not true. And in many ways, it's like the child taking credit for receiving the Christmas present, because that's really what's going on here. The reason for Project Exile in all these jurisdictions, every one, is because of the state's attorney's office's inability to prosecute these defendants in state court. Now, Ms. Jessamy says that these cases are slam dunks. If they are slam dunks, then why wouldn't you prosecute those cases? There are mandatory minimum penalties that can be used, and it is only because of their inability to successfully prosecute them that the federal government has taken those cases over. Now, what came out of Project Exile was the Violent Repeat Offender Program. Now, I don't know if Ms. Jessamy knows anything about that, but that's a program that came out of Project Exile that involved joint work between the state's attorney's office and the U.S. attorney's office. And the reason for that program was because of the cases that the state's attorney's office was supposed to be prosecuting. They couldn't get convictions in those cases. So what the U.S. attorneys did that were responsible for, that came up with the victim impact of this program, the Violent Repeat Offender Program, was to say, even if they're not a gun case, we'll take those cases. We'll take those cases. Now, I know all this because I know the people that ran those programs. I know the assistant United States attorneys that created them, that ran them and operated them. So I think it really is a misnomer to suggest that the state's attorney's office somehow, is responsible for this and that they're working in a true partnership. Because, yes, there is a partnership, but again, it's only because of the state's attorney's office's inability to prosecute these kinds of cases.
Thanks. I want to ask this last question that I have to address you with, and this is important to the citizens, obviously the police department and everyone else. Witness protection. What can the state's attorney's office do to help witnesses who want to come forward feel that they can be comfortable coming forward without being victims themselves in terms of witness protection?
I'm glad you asked that question. This is a publication by the American Prosecutors Research Institute, of which I'm a board member. This publication was 2002. In this publication, it talks about Project Exile in Richmond. On page 3, it talks about Disarm in Maryland, which is the program I talked about. So my opponent says Project Exile began in 2006. Okay, I'll pass this around so you can look at it and see. I'm also in here talking about a number of other initiatives that we started in the state's attorney's office. But to get to this issue of witness intimidation, sometimes conviction rates can be very misleading. So rather than rely heavily on a conviction rate, what I do is look at the cases that don't go forward. And we have projects and programs to analyze those to find out what happens. Talking to attorneys in reference to some of those cases, I discovered that witnesses were failing to appear. So I delve further and say, well, what's happening with these witnesses? And they say, well, they're saying that they are threatened and intimidated. Now, we already had a witness protection program because that was started in the state's attorney's office in 1994. I was a deputy state's attorney then. We had a federal witness that had been killed in Baltimore, and Kurt Schmoke was then mayor, and he said that we needed a program to protect witnesses. Stu Sims, who was the state's attorney, asked me to design it. We became one of the first programs in the country to offer witness protection on the local level. We've had people come from all over the world to look at what we do. So that began then, but as we analyzed the cases and saw that witness intimidation was becoming a serious problem, So what did I do? I designed a comprehensive strategy for addressing it. I went to Annapolis initially trying to get, because witness intimidation in Maryland was a misdemeanor. So we needed to improve the penalty on it. So we didn't get legislation the first year, and then the Stop Snitching DVD came out. And what I had been telling the legislators, they realized, oh my God, this is, and it wouldn't have been a big deal except Carmelo Anthony was in it. So then everybody in the nation started talking about Stop Snitching, and Baltimore became the epicenter. So I used that DVD. I went to Annapolis, and I showed it to the legislatures. And we got a witness intimidation statute, but we didn't stop there. We decided that we needed to do a national campaign. We need to educate the community about this issue, because when the witnesses don't come forward, we can't get those convictions that everybody desires. So we started training prosecutors on how do you use recanting statements. What do you do in trying to get witnesses to court? We got the police department to do a locator unit. And we first started using Metalunas and his team out of the fugitives, and then they gave me 2 other individuals that's located in the police investigation unit of the state's attorney's office. They go out and find witnesses, and I keep logs of what they do. They do a phenomenal job of locating witnesses. We do body attachments for witnesses when they don't come to court, and then, you know what? I end up having to pay. Because judges now are telling us if you keep them in jail until they have to testify, there is a witness fee that we end up having to pay them because they have been detained. But in addition to the state legislation, I work with Congressman Cummings to get witness intimidation legislation passed through the House of Representatives. It's now pending in the state. But it's a comprehensive strategy across the board in terms of how we improve witness appearances. And it works very well. It's not where we want it to be, but it has vastly improved.
Bernstein.
Right, well,